Francois, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning, Fabian. How are you?
Well, it's a good afternoon for me here in the UK, but really nice to meet you again. Before we delve into all things data, AI, and automotive, let's learn a little bit more about your journey in the automotive industry and, of course, your current role.
Sure. So I'm a 20 plus years veteran in this industry. I mean, as you can hear, I'm French, very, very French, but been in the US for over 9 years now. So, I started in consulting, then I went to banking and did several OEMs. I worked for Renault, I worked for Stellantis, I worked for GLR, and most recently for Nissan. So I landed in the US, as I told you, like 9 years ago. I was appointed kind of the head of open innovation for the Alliance Renault
Yeah,
Nissan based in Silicon Valley. And then, moved to Tennessee, which is the home state of Nissan headquarters for the region Americas. So it goes from Canada to Argentina. So it's the whole, the two continent of the Americas. Did started on customer experience, digital marketing, did a big project for the region called One App. As a company, we had several apps for the customers, an app for after sales, an app for
yeah,
buying a car, an app for many things, and we should combine all this for ease of customer experience. And most recently, I'm the chief of staff of the CFO of the region. So roughly, we're talking about a kind of a 40,000 employees. We have five factories in the region, and it's a little bit more about $6 billion business. So as a chief of staff, what I'm doing is trying to get Nissan to the next level in terms of technology. And I say technology in a broader sense, goes from connected vehicles to digital transformation, and most recently on AI. As I told you, I was at the forefront of all this in Silicon Valley, like 2016 or so.
mhm,
And the ramp up of the technology went like, crazy. And now it's real and it's applied to, business challenges and trying to help the organization structure itself, get the right skills, the right governance, the right processes, the right tools, and involve the business to use this technology to gain efficiency and ultimately, be more profitable. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what I'm doing today.
that's fascinating. Such an inspiring journey. If you would describe to someone who isn't so involved in all of these automotive details as we are, how automotive incumbents are approaching AI and specifically Gen AI, what would you say?
And that's a good question. OEMs have an OEM mindset. So we are here to build cars. Okay. And the way, we're approaching data is a very hardware-centric data mindset. But data is ever, an image is data, right?
Mm,
Uh, Data is not just connected cars, and we get data from the electronic control unit of the car. Data is in marketing campaigns, in supply chain, in purchasing, in manufacturing, in many, many different places. And AI can be applied through the what everybody knows, the ChatGPT type of approach, but it's also machine vision, to test qualities of the paint of a car, for instance, or to look at the wear of tires. So there's many, many different use cases. And today we are in the infancy of AI. So as an organization, we're going kind of all over the place, but not just us. You talk to the Ford of the world and the Stellantis of the world and the Mercedes of the world. All the OEMs are starting to figure it out. Where is the value? So we're naturally attracted to the shiny things. Oh, this is a cool use case. We can optimize our supply chain with the prediction of whatever. Okay, cool. Um, Show me the ROI, because the way we historically uh, build or the data warehouses or data mart was not meant to be used for AI. So what I'm saying usually is garbage in, garbage out. And today OEMs are really seeing data as a input to do something. But data is first an output of systems. And we tend to ignore that. So we're looking at the data, oh, we're going to do all of this. But guys, data is coming from systems. And if you don't fix the systems, we're going to have a hard time. So that's kind of where we stand as an industry. Some OEMs are more advanced than others. I mean, let's be very honest. When you look at what the Chinese are doing, wow, they are really, really advanced. Of course, I'm not talking about the Rivian or the Tesla that build their company around software, not around hardware. We have all a legacy to transform that costs a lot, and not just in terms of money, but with the skill set we have internally. We are not a software company. Let's be honest.
You asked a very interesting question there earlier. Where's the value? So, Francois, where is the value today? And also, where do you see the value with GenAI going in the future?
So that reminds me, a study from a big consulting firm. It was in 2016, 2017. Data monetization. Thanks to the data, we're gonna be able to make new business models and get great revenue out of data monetization. Awesome, great. We tried, we failed. Why? Very simple. Quality of the data. Again, data is first an output of systems. So to look at the value of data, it can be everywhere, but anywhere at the same time. Look at all the OEMs struggling on connected services. That was the new holy grail of this industry. We're going to make billions out of connectivity, right? Everybody was talking about it. Is still talking about that. Bunch of startups and companies and consulting firms saying the same thing. With the car connected, we'll be able to do this and we'll be able to do that. And thanks to the data we're going to get, that's going to be the next generation of revenue for an OEM. Who today in the industry managed to figure it out? Not a lot of OEMs. There are some tests. We're talking always about the same topics like UBI, user-based insurance. When you understand the insurance business is based on mutualization of risk. What UBI does, it individualizes the risk. So it's a complete shift of your industry for the insurance business. Completely, it's a game changer for this industry, and they're very reluctant to it because they know how to handle risk, on a mutualization standpoint. On an individual standpoint, how does it work? So there is this aspect of things. But back to your question on the ROI. This is what I'm saying. Actually, to the head of our R&D is what's the ROI of a steering wheel? Do you measure the ROI of a steering wheel? No, you need a steering wheel to drive a car today, right? So what's the ROI of data? You need data. We need to test and learn. We need to bring agile methodology within our companies to accelerate the learnings and capitalize on those learnings. A lot of OEMs are basically vendor management companies. They outsource a lot of the work. Seats, we don't build our seats. Seats are built by our, partners. We assemble things. So that some of the knowledge of how to build a car, basically, we outsourced it. Same as for IT. A lot of our IT is outsourced, and we're not the only OEMs doing that. A lot of OEMs are doing that. So over time, you're getting a workforce that is super good at managing projects, but on a technical standpoint, we outsource the skills. So we don't know what a system architecture is. We don't know how to code an API. So how to change that? How to insource this skill set internally to really master the value chain. Today, a lot of OEMs are selling their data to third parties that are crunching the data, cleaning the data, prepping the data, and they're selling us back the data, which is our own data. So what's the value chain in here? Well, it's very hard to say, right? So the first step really to be able to measure properly ROI on data is, I think, ingest the skills and internalize the value chain. And then all the initiatives of those test and learns we were talking about needs to be driven by the business. Business has challenges. They don't have particularly the skills to work on data, but they know what needs to be done. And when I say business, is not just sales, it's manufacturing, it's purchasing, it's all the functions within the organization. And okay, we need to get kind of to a design thinking approach, meaning what is my challenge today, where my challenges are, and then how can I leverage data to first gain in efficiency, how to automate as simply as reports. I mean, today, who needs Excel? Well, what LLM can do. Prediction on your P&L, consolidation. There's many, I would say, use cases that can be automated and where you can get efficiency. And then more external is how do you build this service ecosystem through all the connectivity that we're going to have in the car to bring customer lives better, bring more services within the car, and be able to monetize that. So today it's not really structured. It's very, this way or a lot of everybody's trying something different. On top of that, you have the EV revolution in our industry. And on top of that, you have autonomous driving. So you have so many revolutions within this industry today that OEMs, I have to say, are kind of overwhelmed.
Let's bring a couple of your lines of thought together in the context of GenAI. So you mentioned that in some areas of our businesses, we're risking of losing some of the technical competency and almost becoming more project managers. And then on the other hand, you mentioned that the functions most often know best what problems need solving. What does it mean for GenAI? How should OEMs organize their GenAI capabilities internally to solve the problems that are worth solving and also solve them the right way?
I think we are missing a step here. Let me try to organize my thoughts. You don't know what you don't know. And today, the big investment that needs to be done in this industry, it's training. It's understanding what we're talking about. You go to see, the head of supply chain or the CFO and ask him about the difference between Gemini and Meta. He doesn't know. He doesn't even know that Meta is from Facebook and Gemini is from Google, right? So you have an upskill to do, an education to do, not in the technicalities, but understanding what AI means. What is the difference between GenAI that you're referring to, or machine learning, or LLMs, or there's many terminologies around that that only I would say few people really grasp. If they don't understand what AI stands for and what it can do for now, and understand the potentialities of this technology, it's very hard to find a way to organize things. So today, at Nissan, we stood up a data office a couple of years ago that is different from our ISIT. But we don't have an AI office. We have a data office, right? Some other companies have a AI office. Even in universities, I'm today teaching data science at Vanderbilt. they have a data science institute, and even themselves were thinking, do I include AI in the data institute, or do I do a separate institute on AI? The AI is data. It's fed by data and math, right? So I would say OEMs, but any other industries, I guess, is really understand first what can we do with that, and educate those guys, and be kind of have a doctor approach. Is what is the diagnostic of my existing organization? I have people, process, tools. Do we have a problem of tools? No. We don't know how to use them well, because again, training. We might they might be scattered all over the place. The cost may be crazy because we don't monitor well our license, or there's many things around the tools that need to be addressed. Processes today were designed before the GenAI era, but you see that all the big SaaS companies, the SAP, the Salesforce of the world, Oracle, the Workday, the ServiceNow, all those guys are embedding AI within their systems. So that's for sure dramatically going to change your internal processes. And today, I mean, as an OEM, we're deep into this, redesigning our procure to pay, hire to retire processes, and this type of things. And on people, we talked about it, right? It's training and get the right skills. You cannot have a data office filled with PMO people. You need data scientists, right? How to get data scientists? It's a very competitive market. The HR policy of an OEM today does not take into account those new skill set. You cannot hire an entry-level data scientist under 150K a year in the US. You can't. Our salary grid, 150K, it's 5 to 10 years of experience. You need to change your policy, right? So it's a lot of things that needs to be addressed to be able to do the right thing. The current policies and governance processes and processes themselves are not adapted to this to be able to scale GenAI. So I wouldn't try to force GenAI within an existing organization. I would take the right steps to be able to embed it, step-by-step GenAI within the organization. Today we try, to do some of those projects with GenAI, but it failed because we don't even have the laptop to compute properly data. Our laptops are not designed to handle, it's just 8 gigs of RAM. You need at least 16 gig of RAM to do serious work on data. So I'm not even talking about GenAI.
You just mentioned that we shouldn't force GenAI into these organizations, and you also mentioned that sort of awareness and upskilling is probably sort of one of the first steps. What does the roadmap look like to become successful with GenAI?
What I'm seeing, and not just only at Nissan, it's the fear of losing your job. I'm keeping busy all day long to check a manual process, but that's what I'm doing, and I'm happy by doing this. You're going to teach me that I can do that in 2 minutes? What am I going to do with the rest of the day? A lot of fear. And then in the legacy kind of old-fashioned mindset, you still have that a lot in big corporations, is more people you have, more powerful you are. More budget you have, more powerful you are, right? But when I'm coming to you and say, hey, those 100 people that are doing this task, I can fully automate it. I'm going to lose people. I'm going to lose budget. Maybe it's not the right approach. Yeah, let's talk about that later, right? So it has to be a top-down approach. So that's, I think, really critical when you look at all the big corporations that embraced AI. I'm taking the example of banking, for instance. The executive committee was super serious, and you have, in the KPIs of director level and below, implementation timelines of key tools to be able to automate stuff. And that was directly linked to their bonuses to make the change happen. If you want to do the change more slowly or more organically, it has to be a combination between top-down approach and bottom-up, again, through training, some use cases, and a huge involvement of your middle management that understands the value. And again, you need to rethink the KPIs on what you're measuring your employees on, right? If the guy is basically, getting his bonuses based on a very traditional KPI, what incentive would he have to change his process? So there's a big HR component, change management, and reinsuring people. Say, hey, and I'm living it right now today. I'm helping one of our managers on a very specific use case on after sales. And she was begging me, Francois, can we automate this process? Because I'm spending so much time, so much time on this. I want to automate it. That's a great use case. Let's automate it. I said, but maybe we can even link it there, and we can get you a better prediction of sales thanks to a GenAI tool. Can we do that? I said, yeah, we can do that. Starting to make a short model explaining how it would work. And then what she told me? She said, yeah, but sales prediction, it's not in my department, it's in the department of my neighbor. So I don't feel comfortable going there. It's okay. Let's bring up your colleague. And then the prediction, the sales forecasting department looked at this and said, yeah, but I have 2 people full-time doing that on Excel. And it works fine. I don't really need your thing. So just focus on the automation of tasks. So what to do here? Well, you need to escalate to the VP, right? So you see, why I'm giving you this example is to show the time it takes, because tech is not about tech, it's about people. If people are not convinced or don't understand, you cannot force things. It's a human or adventure and organization, and that takes time.
Let's talk about a couple of these use cases that you've seen within the industry. What use cases are OEMs working on right now? You mentioned some automation use cases more widely across the industry. And how do you see this changing over time in terms of some use cases that might only be possible or feasible to implement successfully over the medium to long term, so the next 3 to 5 years?
I think short term is going to be a lot of what we just discussed about automation of tasks, being more efficient as an organization with minor tweaks on existing processes, from manufacturing to sales. I think midterm, the big one is AD, is autonomous driving. I mean, last week, Tesla showcased in the US, their microbus fully autonomous. I tried 3 weeks ago in San Francisco the Waymo autonomous car. It was freaking amazing. And I tried already ADs almost 10 years ago. That was already working pretty well, but now the cost has been reduced. So now we know that on a business model standpoint, that's going to come. That's the big revolution to me, and that's midterm. So the big use cases is internally, we talked about it, all the automation. Then how OEMs can use LLM more on a customer experience standpoint, being able to do some, very efficient predictive maintenance, for instance, for the customers. You can have service bundles within the car, using the car as a payment device. All those use cases, they're 10 years old, right? GM tried it, failed. Honda tried it, failed. We tried it, we failed. Is it because the use case was wrong, or is it because the technology was not ready? Was because of tech was not ready and the customer experience sucked, was really not good. But now that's getting improved, and we're starting to see, and you see how Google is approaching that, with their Google Automotive Services. They were kind of a layer on top of OEM softwares within the car. But now they understood that being in the car, you can bring many services within the car, not to break the digital experience of a customer, because you're connected all the time with your phone, right? When you go in a car, this connection is not used anymore because of compliance. First, you cannot drive, with your phone, right? And you're busy driving, so you cannot, interact with the device. So how to, on an HMI standpoint, how to change that? There's a lot of work around the digital space within the car. It can be entertainment services. There is a European manufacturer that bought a media company because they know that when autonomous cars will be there, you need to entertain your customers within the car. So media is going to be a big skills for OEM. So there is multiple different use cases that are still not, I would say, live. But the big thing on the mobility revolution, which is going to be AD, that's going to change everything. There is one use cases we talked about several years ago, and it's IoT. A car as part of a connected ecosystem. Car would connect with the cities and everything. The concept is great, but on an infrastructure standpoint, a lot of cities have tried and partner with OEMs to try to make some pilots, those smart city initiatives. Today, there is not any viable business model around that, because we should have a United Nations on mobility between public and private. Today, it's not really the case. Public-private collaborate on basically fines for cafe and all those EV regulations. But on a mobility standpoint, more broader vision of mobility, you need a partnership between public transportation, private-owned cars, cities, and so forth. And today, it's not organized enough to be able to make meaningful progress.
Bringing together a couple of points you mentioned there, you describe some of these more forward-looking use cases, like in the advanced customer experience space. On the other hand, you mentioned that OEMs, and I've seen this across manufacturers, are currently struggling with recruiting these top talents in areas like, for example, data science, that don't fit in the existing pay structures. And you also mentioned that previously a barrier to unlocking these profit pools has been technology, which leads me to the question of, where is this technology, of course, from your perspective, coming from in the future? Is this something that OEMs will develop internally and they overcome these barriers and some others? Or do you believe that some of these technology companies that you described, that are currently working on these solutions, will bring in these technologies into the OEMs?
When you look at the history so far, Volkswagen, they tried. They don't work very well. Or they just hired the previous Apple guy. Stellantis, they hired the previous Amazon head of network. All those OEMs are trying to figure it out and hire, pay millions to get the right talent at top level to help trying to transform their industry. Renault, Nissan, we did the same thing. We hired a top-notch tech guy. 3 years later, guy left. because the job, those organizations are so big, is that can you transform such a big organization with the pace of technology today? It's a big challenge. Some OEMs have an approach where we need to transform ourselves. Some other OEMs are deciding to make a spin-off to avoid all the legacy processes and compliance and topics of the legacy company to move forward. Today, especially with what's going on worldwide level with China, with India is a different story. But China is really leading the way in a technology standpoint for mobility. I don't see myself any other ways for legacy OEMs to partner. The make or buy type of decisions to have is this industry needs to consolidate anyway. You have way too many manufacturers, and you cannot sustain this type of business, which is a volume based with a 10 billion market cap. No, you can't do it. That's why all the OEM are rushing on their corporate operating profit to be at least 2 digits. The one that are not, they don't have the means to invest to transform their existing organization to get to the next level in terms of technology. That's what I'm thinking. So the right approach is partnership and shifting the mindset of, oh, I own my data, so my data it's my data. It's I want to give it to anybody. No, it's collaboration that's gonna. Everybody, I think, has a role to play and can get value out of a nice partnership. Yeah, you put Google in your car. Yeah, Google will gather data. Yeah, but you still have the data as well. So Google doesn't have the OEM expertise, and Google actually is hiring people from automotive to better understand how it works. So we both need each other, and that's the way I'm seeing it. You can't compete as an OEM, a Qualcomm or Google. On the map, look what Apple went late. Google Maps was already in place. Apple, which is a big technology company with a lot of talent software engineers, how long did it take them to catch up? And even look at the market share of Google Maps versus Apple Maps. Apple never really caught up, right? So being the first in this industry or being able to scale fast is the winner takes it all in technology. Who can compete today against Instagram? They scaled super fast. Maybe the new Instagram will come and kill the existing Instagram. But why not? Because it's a new ideas or a new customer interface or whatsoever, or new algorithm, like TikTok-based stuff, right? But what I'm saying is, we cannot compete with the scale of our industry versus technology industry, and it's the only way to make business and drive customer value is through partnership, in my opinion.
You described a few times that one of the huge obstacles from an organizational culture standpoint are aspects like a conflict of interest, that sort of organizational size in terms of budget and number of people means power. You mentioned that there is a potential conflict of interest in terms of being too scared of making a mistake and then being blamed for it. Realistic, and then on the other side, you mentioned that, okay, we need to incentivize these types of different behaviors from a sort of very top level perspective. Like, realistically, what do you think organizations, especially senior execs, could do to overcome some of these cultural barriers that you described?
You need to be outcome driven and not process driven. So a lot of I can give you a very concrete example. When I was developing our apps, I had the testing team that was testing the functionality of the app with the car, because there's a lot of connected features, in the app that you could remote start your car, remote lock your car, and so forth. And we developed also a watch app. The test team took a Chinese brand watch that was not even commercialized in the US and tried a feature that nobody's using. And the features failed. And the process was, oh, the feature is failing. It's a critical topic. We cannot launch the app. And it took me 2 months to explain to the organization that first, this is a feature that is not used. So we don't really care, because we can launch the app without this feature working because the customer are not using it anyway. Second, this feature is not working on a specific model of a Chinese brand watch that doesn't even exist in the US. So I can launch my app in the US. Nobody's wearing this type of watch. So there is no use case, but the KPIs I'm talking about didn't exist in the R&D process of this company. And it made a lot of sense to everybody, but we were blocked by the process, not by the reality. And I had to argue and go back and forth with the mothership to explain. And by the time I was able to explain, we fixed it, but it was more money. So where I'm giving you this example is shift the mindset of senior executives on how to become agile. It's very hard for an OEM. You cannot mess up with the lives of people. When you're building a car, you're putting people in your machine. And if your car is not safe, at the end of the day, you have injuries. You see what I'm saying? Software, you have an issue on your phone, you can fix it through OTA, over-the-air updates. With a car, you can't. And all the mindset, it's like a little bit like banking. Banking and OEMs are very risk averse. Banking, it's obvious, right? You're not going to lend money to somebody that's not going to repay you. And OEMs, it's kind of the same. So it's the processes, the culture, the profiles of people are very risk averse. And it's a good thing because you can play with life with people. So how to really combine this hardware mindset where your hardware needs to be right and the software where you can have agility. Do you need to tie your software milestones to your hardware? So this is what we're doing. Some OEMs try to detach it. Tesla, it's completely separated. It's because you can fix it on a software standpoint way quicker than on your hardware. So how to get the key executive understand how software works? Again, it's education, it's demos, it's going to the headquarters of key technology companies so they see and understand how software works. That's what I'm doing actually internally with our key executives. I have a very nice PowerPoint slide. I'm a guitar player, and I did a slide where I have a picture of you see you see the real deal. But I have a slide I made on PowerPoint because we are a PowerPoint factory. We do everything on PowerPoint, where I show a guitar and I'm naming, this is the neck, this is the body, this is the sixth string, this is the E strings, this is the A strings. I'm writing down everything. This is a guitar, and I'm showing that to the big guys. And so first they're like, what are you doing? What is this? Okay, François, great. It's okay. I trained you, I explained to you what a guitar was, right? So now you know how a guitar works. If you want to do an A, you need to, poke the second string, right? Now you know it's an A. Okay, okay. Do you know how to play the guitar? Because I trained you. So do you know how to play the guitar now? No. To play guitar, you need to freaking take the instrument and play. So it's learning by doing. It's not learning by analyzing on PowerPoint and making assumptions. It's by doing. So to encourage real demos, encourage your employees to take risk on the side of the existing process, but to demonstrate we can do things differently. But doing, not concepts on a PowerPoint of we could do that, no, just do it. Experiment it. Let's take 2 cars and play with it. Let's try. It's by doing things that we are going to learn. It's not by paying millions, consulting firms, and doing PowerPoints in our offices. It's going out, tweaking the engine, coding some whatever. It's also the approach. It's being very more pragmatic than what we are today. When you're doing a meeting at Waymo, when I was in Silicon Valley, I worked extensively with Stanford University. I was a mentor at their Center of Research for Automotive. We talked about an idea. We didn't, let's make a presentation to no. We went on our computer and we started to code. You see what I'm saying? It's this culture shift that needs to happen in this industry. We need to be obsessed by our products and testing things in reality in the car, or maybe in the software, or whatever use cases you want to take. But it's not by showing on PowerPoint a use case that's you're making progress. It's by trying. And sometimes it fails. Okay. It's fine. This is a KPI I actually instigated when I was in Silicon Valley, is number of projects failed to my teams, to encourage them to make projects. It was not successful projects. It was how many projects did you fail? And I can tell you I had a lot of projects, but that was amazing, because innovation, it's about probability, nothing else. More you try, more chances you have to get it right. Look at SpaceX. How many times his rocket exploded? It's crazy when you think about it. And now look what happened last week, where now they're able to land SpaceX spot on their, I don't know how you call this thing, but it's this.
Final question from my side. There's been loads of useful advice already. Just to sort of summarize some of your thinking, imagine that you're talking to a chief data and AI officer at one of the incumbent car manufacturers, assuming that role exists. What would be your top 3 recommendations for him or her to make GenAI and their organization a success and approach it the right way?
Data for the sake of data is useless. Talk to your customer first. Gain the trust of your customers. Your customers are the functions. Go and talk and understand the business needs, the business challenges. That's the first thing. Listen to your business. Second is, no need to have a 50 slides deck of data strategy and data governance and all these things. Is make a quick win to prove your legitimacy within the organization. You know what you're doing. Then when you get that, that's kind of your first pillar. Second pillar is going to be data governance. Who's doing what on data? Do you have a function approach? Do you have a centralized approach? Do you have a hybrid approach? It depends of the culture of the company. I think to start with a company that is not mature enough on data, the best approach is hybrid. Is you have a data office that is kind of the repository and setting the directions, but you let function have their own data initiatives. And step by step, you're building. Data governance doesn't mean the concept that we had in the 80s where you have this huge data warehouse and we have one source of truth. That doesn't exist. One source of truth doesn't exist. And do you really need it today with AI? I don't think you do. Because with a little bit of ChatGPT and Python, you can clean your data in a nutshell. So you need to have the right infrastructure, of course. Then, so the governance is data management needs to be with data analytics and needs to be with data value chain needs to be together. You cannot have a piece of data infrastructure in another department because you need your good sandbox. You need to be able to be quick in your environment. You need to set up your QA properly. There's many things in. To foster data vision, all the data scope needs to be within the same organization, not for ownership reasons, but more for agility and speed of execution reasons. And then the third point is all the training, research, collaboration with universities, with other organizations to augment the existing data you have with external data to provide, huge value insights. So you need to think data, and again, data is not just an Excel sheet that you're going to put in Snowflake, right? An image is data. Many data points are all over the place. So you need to structure your data the right way, but you need to be agile. Today, do you need to have a customer database, a supplier database, a dealer database? Maybe it's the good approach for now. Okay, let's do it. In supply chain, I'm giving you a pretty cool example in supply chain. We don't have weather data in supply chain. But when you're shipping cars from Mexico to Canada and your cars are on their trucks and it's in February and you're in Chicago, what's happening? If you don't take into account weather, your supply chain is going to have an issue, right? Because it's snowing and the roads are blocked. And so weather as an external data can dramatically enhance your predictability on supply chain and efficiency of your supply chain. So we don't have to see data as our data, and all we can do is this next point is adding data with an open innovation mindset where you're augmenting your existing data with external data to bring the right insights for your organization. So partnership, get your people out, get them to conferences, get them to meet startups, and ingest the innovation from external brains into your organization.
Thank you so much, Francois. That's been a fascinating, super insightful conversation. It's greatly appreciated.
No, thank you, Fabian. It was a pleasure.